If Niccolo Machiavelli were alive today, I don't think he'd be writing books. No lectures, no TED Talks, no online masterclasses, no top 10 habits of power players going viral on his feed. In fact, he wouldn't even have a feed. He'd be running things from the shadows, not from a profile. No tweets, no posts, no likes, just moves, quiet ones you'd never see coming. He'd be the one pulling strings so subtly you'd think it was fate. Because in a world where everyone is obsessed with being seen, the real power isn't invisibility, it's in invisibility. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Not just quotes or cool one-liners, but 21 psychological rules. The kind Machiavelli himself would follow if he were walking among us in the age of algorithms and noise. This isn't about playing dirty. It's about understanding how the world really works and how to move through it like a ghost with influence. Rule 1. Always let them underestimate you. Machiavelli believed power was safest when hidden. Today, most people are obsessed with proving themselves, flashing their status, arguing to be heard, showing off intelligence in every room they walk into. Machiavelli? He'd walk in last, sit quiet, observe everything. And when he finally spoke, it would be something no one expected, but everyone felt. Let them think you're the quiet one, the harmless one, the forgettable one. Because when they believe you're not a threat, they get comfortable, they show their hand, and that's when you strike. Calmly, surgically, from a place they never even looked. Rule 2. Charm is more dangerous than truth. Let's be honest, truth doesn't spread anymore, perception does. People don't believe what's real, they believe what feels real. So Machiavelli wouldn't waste energy proving he was a good person. He'd focus on looking like one. He'd smile, nod, compliment the room. Meanwhile, he'd be laying out plans with precision. See, in this world, being honest isn't nearly as useful as being believed. That's what charm is, a carefully constructed illusion. He wouldn't argue for integrity. He'd let people crown him a saint while he quietly rewrote the ending. Rule 3. Be ambiguous on purpose. We're in a society where everyone's desperate to be understood. They over-explain, over-post, over-share. Machiavelli would do the opposite. He'd make you wonder. One day he'd be warm, the next cold, sometimes present, sometimes distant. Not because he was confused, but because you would be. Why? Because confusion breeds curiosity, and curiosity, that becomes obsession. People don't obsess over what they already understand. They obsess over puzzles, over people they can't quite figure out. And once you become a mystery, they orbit you. They analyze every word, every silence. Don't fill the gaps. Let them wonder. Say just enough to make them lean in, and then disappear. Rule 4. Show the output, hide the input. We live in an age where people document everything, their habits, their routines, their thoughts, their every move. Machiavelli would do the opposite. He'd let you see the results, not the recipe. You'd see the achievement, but not how he built it. You'd hear the decision, but never the strategy. He'd control the feed while guarding the factory. Because once people see how you operate, they plan around you, they mimic you, or worse, they try to block you. So instead, move in silence, reveal nothing, and by the time they see your next step, you're already 5 moves ahead. Rule 5. Build a mask, then let it slip. Just once. Here's something manipulators today understand well. Perfection is boring. It doesn't stick. Machiavelli would build the perfect image, calm, controlled, intelligent, confident. Then, just once, he'd let that mask slip. Not by accident, on purpose. Maybe it's a sharp word. Maybe it's a crack of vulnerability. Something just enough to suggest there's more beneath the surface. And suddenly, you're hooked. Because now, you're not chasing the person. You're chasing the part you didn't get to see. People are drawn to what's just out of reach. So give them 90% of the story, then go silent.
Let them chase the other 10% for years.
Rule 6. Speak less than necessary. When people talk too much, they reveal too much. Insecurities, motives, weaknesses. Machiavelli wouldn't ramble, he'd strike. Every word would be sharp, controlled, and just when the room starts to lean in, he'd stop. Let the silence do the rest. Silence makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to fill the space with their own doubts, fears, projections. You don't even have to say anything. They write the whole script for you. And guess what? In their version, you're always the wild card. Rule 7. Blur the line between threat and ally. People crave clarity. Who's a friend? Who's a threat? Who's neutral? Machiavelli would never give them that comfort. He'd sit next to rivals, praise enemies, defend people he planned to remove. Why? Because if they think you're dangerous, they'll prepare. But if they're unsure, if they can't tell, they relax. And that's when you move. Be warm, be generous, be disarming. Then act, quickly and quietly, while they're still trying to figure out if you were ever a threat to begin with. Rule 8. Make them feel safe right before you take power. The best way to beat someone, don't make them feel like they're losing. Make them feel like they're guiding you. Machiavelli would mirror your language, praise your plans, offer no resistance, and you'd think he was on your side. Until he wasn't. He'd wait until you relaxed, until you let your guard down, then strike clean. And by the time you realized it wasn't a partnership, he'd already be sitting in your chair. That's not betrayal, that's positioning. And it works because you never saw it coming. Rule 9. Create dependence, then leave. Machiavelli wouldn't dominate by force, he'd dominate by necessity. He'd help you, teach you, stabilize things in ways no one else could. You wouldn't even notice how much you were leaning on him. Until he left. No anger, no explanation, just absence. And suddenly, everything feels off. The system wobbles, you're off balance. Because now you realize you needed him. That's power. Creating a void so specific that no one else can fill it. Rule 10. Weaponize the favor. Most people give help so they'll be liked. Machiavelli would give it so he could own a piece of your pride. He wouldn't hold it over you. He wouldn't ask for payback. He'd just let you feel the weight of the debt. He'd give you something you needed, and then go quiet. And that imbalance, it would gnaw at you. Eventually, you'd pay him back. Not with cash, but with loyalty, secrets, silence, submission. That's the power of the quiet favor. It doesn't expire. It lingers. Rule 11. Make them betray for you, then reward with loyalty. Most people think loyalty is something you earn with kindness. Machiavelli would tell you otherwise. He knew the real path to loyalty was far darker. Get them to betray someone else, for you. Not by forcing it, never that obvious, just create the space for it. Let them vent to you about someone they shouldn't. Let them share a secret that wasn't theirs to share. Let them defend you at someone else's expense. They think they're gaining your favor, but really, they're binding themselves to you. Because once someone crosses that line, they can't afford to lose you. You become the one person who knows what they've done. They won't just follow you, they'll protect you. Because if you fall, so do they. Rule 12. Break alliances from the inside. If Machiavelli wanted to break a team, a group, a partnership, he wouldn't attack it directly. That's too obvious. He'd infiltrate it, slowly, quietly. He'd study the dynamics, then plant the smallest seeds of doubt. Funny how he didn't back you up in that meeting. I'm sure she meant well, but that's not the first time she took credit, right? Not saying anything, just something to keep an eye on. And that's it, just enough to start the gears turning. Because once doubt enters a relationship, trust erodes. And once trust is gone, alliances collapse on their own. No need to push, just wait. Rule 13. Reflect their insecurities back at them, gently. Want someone to follow you without realizing they are? Make them feel seen. Not by complimenting their strengths, but by softly acknowledging their fears. You always keep your cool, even when others don't really listen to you. I know you hate being underestimated, but you keep showing up strong. You're doing better than most, especially for someone who never really had support. What do those statements do? They don't attack. They don't even advise. They agree with a private, painful truth. And once someone feels understood, especially in their weakness, they attach to the one person who gets it. Now you're not just someone they know. You're someone who sees through them. Someone they trust more than they trust themselves. Rule 14. Never hold the knife. Machiavelli had a golden rule. Let others do the dirty work. He'd plant the idea, whisper the doubt, fan the flame. But when the axe finally fell, he wouldn't be the one holding it. Why? Because the one who swings the sword earns the blood on their hands. The one who lets it happen walks away untouched. In today's world, that means letting people fail themselves, giving just enough rope for someone to hang their own reputation, feeding both sides of a conflict, then vanishing before the explosion. When someone needs to be removed, don't remove them, just step back. Let the structure collapse on its own. And when the dust settles, step into the space they used to fill, clean, quiet, and unquestioned. Rule 15. Say nothing and watch everything. Power doesn't shout, it listens. In any conversation, the one who speaks less holds the advantage. Machiavelli knew that silence isn't passive, it's strategic. Someone attacks you? Stay silent. Someone overshares? Stay silent. Someone tries to provoke a reaction? You blink, you nod, but you say nothing. What happens next is psychological magic. They start talking more to fill the space. And the more they talk, the more they reveal. Insecurities, intentions, pressure points. You don't need to interrogate them. They'll do it to themselves. That's the paradox. You say nothing and end up knowing everything.
Rule 16. Be predictable until it matters most. People think Machiavellian power means being wild, chaotic, unpredictable all the time. Wrong. He'd be consistent, reliable, easy to read, until the moment it counted. That's when he'd become a ghost. Why? Because predictability is leverage until it becomes a trap. Once they know how you move, they can manipulate it. So what do? You keep them guessing when it matters. Sometimes you respond instantly. Sometimes you vanish. Sometimes you forgive. Sometimes you disappear. Sometimes you explain. Sometimes you let the silence speak. That inconsistency at just the right moment, it's not randomness, it's control. Because if people can't predict you, they can't prepare for you. And that, more than charisma, more than authority, is what breeds fear. Rule 17. Leave the room, but stay in their minds. Here's a secret Machiavelli would master today. You don't have to be present to have power. You just have to be remembered. That means leaving an imprint, not just of what you said, but how you made decisions, the way you carried yourself, the silence between your sentences, the precision of your presence. You don't dominate a room by speaking the most. You dominate it by becoming the reference point. Even when you're not there, they hear your voice in their head. Would you approve? What would you have done? What would you think? That's how you move from a person to a standard. And when people start adjusting their behavior based on what you might do, you've already won.
Rule 18. Never threaten. Let fear do the work. Real power doesn't come from loud warnings or raised voices. It comes from the fear of the unknown. Machiavelli wouldn't waste time saying, "I'll ruin you." He wouldn't need to.
His silence would do more damage than his threats ever could. Imagine this: someone lies to your face, and you just pause. You don't react. You don't correct them. You just watch. What happens next? Their mind spins. Did he catch that? Did I go too far? What's he thinking right now? That's fear doing the work for you. The moment people start imagining what you might do, you don't need to say a word. Their anxiety will drag them toward obedience. Not because you forced them, but because they're afraid to find out what happens if they don't. Fear that's imagined is more powerful than fear that's stated. So keep your cards close. Don't explain. Don't warn. Let their minds spiral into paranoia, and let that paranoia become your control. Rule 19. Delay revenge until it's devastating. Quick revenge is emotional. Strategic revenge? That's timeless. Machiavelli understood that the longer you wait, the deeper the impact. When someone wronged him, he didn't rush in with fury. He waited. He watched. He let them get comfortable, maybe even confident. And just when they started to believe they were safe, he moved. Clean, sharp, no warnings. That's because revenge isn't about punishing them, it's about timing. When you strike too soon, they still have their guard up. But if you wait, if you let them believe they escaped, then your move lands like thunder on a clear day. And the best part? While they were relaxing, you were preparing. And by the time it happens, it doesn't even feel like revenge. It feels like consequences. That's how Machiavelli would operate in today's world, not with outbursts, but with precision. He wouldn't need to yell. He'd just remove the right person at the right time, and everyone else would get the message. Rule 19. Become a system, not a person. Here's where power becomes legacy. Machiavelli never wanted to be a celebrity. He wanted to be essential, not admired, relied on. Think about the most powerful people today. They don't just influence decisions, they are the decision. Their mindset is the method. Their approach becomes the operating system for others. Machiavelli would do the same. He wouldn't just build influence, he'd build infrastructure. He'd teach people to think like him, act like him, solve problems the way he does, until his absence doesn't remove his power, it cements it. Because even when he's not there, people still follow the system he built. That's the ultimate move, becoming so foundational that removing you would mean collapsing the whole structure. You're not just a man, you're the method, the standard, the invisible code running in the background of every major move.
Rule 21. Make them afraid to say your name. And now, the final form of power. It's not fame, it's haunting. Machiavelli wouldn't care about trending. He wouldn't care about applause. What he'd care about is effect. He'd want to become the name people whisper, but never say. The presence people feel, but can't confront. The force everyone refers to as you-know-who, because saying the name itself carries weight. Not out of superstition, out of psychological conditioning. It's the kind of presence that alters the room without ever entering it. The kind where you never have to argue your point, because the last time you were challenged, the room remembers what happened. It's not power based on dominance, it's power based on atmosphere. You don't chase respect. You build yourself so quietly, so strategically, that respect becomes air. No one notices it until it's gone. And by then, it's too late. People won't say your name. They'll just act differently when your influence is in the room. That's the final move. Not being loved, not being feared, but being beyond both. Machiavelli today, not loud, not seen, but everywhere. If Niccolò Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't be chasing followers. He wouldn't be posting reels. He wouldn't be tweeting quotes from the prince. He'd be behind the curtain, watching, moving quietly, shaping outcomes without needing to be credited.
He'd let everyone else fight for attention, for visibility, for validation. Meanwhile, he'd build things, break things, replace people, shift direction. And by the time you realized something changed, he'd already disappeared into the next move. He'd smile when you talked, stay silent when you pressed, and move when no one thought he could. He wouldn't be looking for power, he'd be becoming it.